before we jump into the course, we're just going to quickly go over all the fundamentals of Adobe Premiere Pro. I'm just going to show you what all the different tools do, what all the different windows are, and just basically a quick overview so that you can jump back to this at any point if you're getting a little overwhelmed or confused. For those of you who have used Premiere before, you might not need to watch this one. There might be a few things that you learn, but you might want to just get started and jump straight into the course. That's fine. Everything I cover in this video will be scattered throughout, and we will be using it throughout, and I do go into it in depth each time. So hopefully it is easy to follow along with each individual one, but we just thought it'd be nice for you to have a video that shows you every single step, all the windows, so you'd hopefully never get confused inside of Premiere, because believe me, after 10 years of using it, when I first began, you can get very confused and a little frustrated at the beginning, but it just takes time, a bit of patience, and you'll be right as rain. And I never had a video like this to watch where someone would break down and literally show me what every single thing would do, so I had to just learn and guess what each thing did. So with all that said, let's jump in. Hopefully you've already downloaded Premiere at this point. Now let's jump into the computer. So when you open up Premiere, the first page should look a little something like this. Now this next step I'm going to go into a lot more depth in the next video. So I'm going to skim over it just a little bit, and that's organizing of your workflow. So where to save your project, what to install, what folders to have, things like that. But for now, we're just going to open up a new project by clicking that button there. I'm just going to call it test, and then we're just going to save it, and I'm going to click here, project location, choose my location, and we're just going to call it, select that folder. It's in my test folder, and we're going to click create. Don't worry about any of this stuff for now. We're just going to jump straight in. Okay, perfect. So now I've opened up Premiere. It should look a little bit something like this. Now, if your screen doesn't look like this, don't panic. What I want you to do is go to Window for me, and you're going to click Workspaces, and you're going to click Essentials. So once you've clicked Essentials there, hopefully it looks very similar to this. If it doesn't, don't panic. I'm going to show you how to move some things around and get on screen what we need. So first of all, if your screen doesn't look like this, you're going to go to Window, and if you need to bring up any of the specific things that I have, for example, this one here is called Timeline, this one here is called Project, Effect Controls, Effects, Source, Program, Lumetri Color, and Text. They're the main ones that we're going to be using for now. And if you need any of them, you just go to Window and click Tick. So for example, let's say I needed Essential Sound. I would just click Essential Sound. And as you can see, it popped up here and opened. I don't need that for now, so I'm going to close it. So we're just going to double click and click Close the panel on there. Close that one. Brilliant. Go back to Window and see what we have. If you need maybe libraries, for example, you would click that. It would open over here. I'm just going to close it for now because I don't need it. So as you can see, anything you need, just open and close, nice and easy inside of here. Now what I am going to do quickly is just show you how to create your own workspace. So you might get to a point where you've got everything you need in one place and you don't want to lose it, because sometimes when you open Premiere it might have changed, or if you open someone else's computer, it will all be in different places. I'm going to show you how to do that. So you're going to go to Window, you're going to go to Workspaces, and I'm just going to call this Save a New Workspace. So I'm going to save this because I want it to always look like this, because this is how I find it nice and easy to understand. I'm just going to call it Alex's Workspace. Okay, and then next time I can go and actually select that there. It comes up right here for me. Great, now that we've got these open, hopefully yours looks something like this. If you need to move anything around, you can just drag and move, look like this. I can move text over here, I could move it back, I can move the source over here. Now I'm just going to run through each one now that you know how to move these around and put things where you need them. And we're going to start with Project. So I'm just going to open up Project. I'm going to click this button here that comes up on your screen just to make that big. And you can do that on any one as long as it's highlighted. For example, I've clicked on Sequence at the moment and it's highlighted blue. And if I was to click that button there, it's going to make it full screen. So I can do that on each one. I'm going to open up Project, and I'm just going to show you how to import some footage. As I said, I cover this quite in a lot of depth in the next couple of videos, but I'm just going to show you how to quickly import. Now I can go to File up here. I can either click Import, and I can import files that way, or I can do what I like to do, which is just double click inside of here and click Import. You can also do shortcuts. I can do Control-I, and that'll open up just my folder. That's another quick way. And I can do that, and I can open this, or if you want to, you can go to your folder and you can just literally drag and drop inside of the project. So lots of different ways to import, all nice and easy, and that's just so that you can get your footage inside of Premiere and start editing. I'm going to click on my footage that I've imported. I'm going to double click it for now, just so that it opens in the source. Now the source basically means whatever I've clicked, it's going to play inside of here. So it'll only play that one clip. The difference between the source and the program is going to play whatever is inside the timeline. So if I was to drag this video from the project into the timeline here, I'm just dragging and dropping, as you can see, it says drop media here to create sequence. So drop that in, and I've just created my first sequence. So I'm just going to rename that. I'm going to double click here and just call it sequence so we don't get confused. As you can see, it will just call that sequence whatever the file that you drag and drop in is called. And there you go. Now it's changed. My timeline is now called sequence, so I know which one is open, and my program also says sequence. So as I said, whatever plays in the program is what is on the timeline, and the source is individual footage. Just so you can work out the difference, if I was to drag and drop another one in and put it here, I'd know I'm in the program because it would keep playing all the way again. It's dragging in. I'm just scrolling here, by the way. I'm clicking on the timeline and just dragging my cursor back and forward, as you can hopefully see on the screen there. Dragging it back and forward to play in there. And then in the source, it would only play, same thing here, just clicking and dragging. It'll only play it once because that's just the clip once. All right, I'm just going to delete those. So delete and delete. I'm just clicking backspace there. And I'm just going to show you a couple of ways of dragging and dropping footage into your sequence in a few different ways. So in source here, I could drag it straight from here. I can drag like that, look, and it'll come in. If I only wanted the video, I can drag this button here, so it'll just drag the video in. If I just want the audio, I can drag here, and it'll drag the audio in. Now you might want just a particular part of the clip in here. So for example, maybe I just want that one clip where it says that. All I'm going to do is select the endpoint here. So this is mark in. I can also press I on my keyboard. That's going to select a marker. And then I'm going to drag along until that stops playing and click O for out. So in and out basically. Or I can click this button here, which is out. And now if I was to drag it, it'll only drag in that clip. Same with this, it'll only drag in the video of it. Same with that, it'll only drag in the audio. I'm just going to delete that. So that's another way. If you want just a particular clip, you can select your in and out there and drag and drop that in. A few more things to cover just inside the source. You can press play here. You can fast forward, frame by frame, back frame by frame. You can jump to the beginning of the in point, jump to the end of the out point. And there's a few more here. You can export a frame, so I could make a thumbnail of that and save it on my desktop. I'm not going to do that. And if you need anything else, click this button here and you can add more things here. So for example, I could add a marker tool, I can add like multi-cameras, lots of different things. Don't need to cover all of that for now, but just know if you click that and you want to add any more, you can play around with those and see what they do to see if they're useful for you. Great, so I'm going to clear my in and out points. I'm just going to double click and click clear in and out. I'm just going to drag the whole video in, so we've got that inside of here. So I'm going to open up my timeline and just show you a few things you can do inside of your timeline here. I'm just going to click the button there to make it full screen. Now video goes on top, so these three tracks here can have video in. So that's that one there. And these three at the bottom are your audio tracks, and that can have the audio in. If I double click on a track, it's going to make it bigger for me. And the same here, so I can just see a lot more. It's quite useful for your audio because you can see your waveforms there, which is nice. And you can also make them bigger by dragging. So if I drag that out, same here, if I drag that out, it'll make it bigger. So it's nice and easy to see. As I said, you can move up and down, so you can have layers on top. So if I was to command copy, I'm just command C and control C and control V, paste in that, moving it up and down, and I can have that stacked on top. So that's essentially how we're going to edit. We're just going to be stacking lots of different things all together so that we can see lots of different things, cutting from one to the next. And yeah, that's literally how Premiere works inside of the sequence. That's how you're going to make all your cuts. Great, I'm going to delete that one out a second just so you can see that. And I'm just going to show you what would happen if I was to drag here. So if I was to click on this end of the clip, you can see that it goes red. I can drag in and that will cut that part of the clip so it no longer plays there, and it will start from here. Same from this end, I can drag and drop like that. And then if I wanted to, I can delete this space here by clicking, and I can just click delete and that will move up. So that's quite useful if you've got like lots of clips, for example, like this. I'll show you how to do that in a second. You can just delete those spaces or click ripple delete and it will just delete that for you. I'm just going to click Control Z a bunch of times. That is just Command undo. So Control Z undoes all these things. Perfect. A few more things here on your timeline. If I was to click this button here, I'm not going to be able to see what is being played. So it's just going to hide the visual. Same for your audio. If I was to click M, that stands for mute. So you can just mute that track or you can solo it. So for example, if I had 2 tracks of 2 things, if I was to click solo here, it's only going to play that one track. So as you can hear, it only plays it once. If I press it twice, it's playing both tracks. So some of these buttons here, so if you don't have these toggled, for example here, the V1 and V1 here, it won't let you import the video onto that layer. As you can see, it's not letting me drop it in. So if you ever get stuck with why it's not letting you import audio or visual, it's to do with these buttons here. So it won't let you. But if I select them again, it will let me now. There we go. That's just to like save yourself from overriding certain bits. And you can also lock the channel. So if I was to lock both of these, I wouldn't be able to drag and drop anything else on top of it. So as you can see, it's not letting me put it on this track. It would make me put it on the track above and below. So that's just to lock. Because in Premiere with your channels, if you move something over the top of the other thing, it will delete it. So it won't just stop here like that. It will literally cover. If I drag it over, it's going to replace whatever's on there. Okay. A few more things. Some of these buttons up here, it's very useful to have the magnet. So that's just going to snap in the timeline. So if I was to turn that off and I was to drag, it's not going to tell me when it gets to this point here. It's just going to keep moving. Whereas if I was to have that magnet on, it's going to tell me, it's going to snap. There you go. It's snapped to there, and it'll, for a second, it won't let you move if I'm trying to move past it. So it's just going to snap that. So that's really useful to have on. I recommend keeping that on. You have here the link selection. So if you want your video selected to your audio when you drag and drop things in, you need this turned on. As you can see, I'm clicking with it off, and it is just selecting either the audio or the visual not linked. If I was to click that and click off, now it's linked. So when I select one, it does the other. If you ever want to unlink any of your audio or your visual, just click Control L, and that will unlink it. So now that is not linked to the audio. And if you want to put it back together, you just click Control L, and that will relink it. Okay. Just on your footage here, if you want to change the opacity, there's this line here that goes through. So if I was to drag that down, it's going to decrease the opacity, so the brightness basically of the image. So if I was to put that back to 100, you can see that you can see the image. Bring it down to 0, you can't see the image. Anywhere in between, it'll be a percentage of that. Perfect. And here we have markers. So I could leave a marker there. So for example, if I was trying to make a note of something or trying to line things up, if I've got my magnet on and I've got a marker, it'll tell me, as you can see, you see the marker there, it highlights. So it'll snap to that position, and that's quite useful for lining things up, especially audio and visual that are out of sync, things like that. Other ways of making markers is if I click on the image on the visual of the video and click M, it will mark that particular clip. If I click M off of it, it will mark here. And with your markers, if I double click that now, I can open it up and I can leave a comment. Maybe Connor's editing an animation or something. I can say, "Hi Connor." I'll put that in here actually. I'm just going to copy and paste that into there. And I'll just put "this needs doing" here. You can change the color if you want. You can change the duration, drag this out. And there's a marker there, look. So it just lets him know. He can open that up and see that that needs doing there. It's a good way to work between a few different editors if that's what you're doing. I'm just going to delete that for now. To open those markers up again, if that wasn't clear, I just double click that. Okay, I'm just double clicking the marker. Okay, one more thing in the sequence. Up here you can see I've got a time frame. So it's literally going, if I just drag my cursor, this changes here. That's my time frame. So I'm at 46 seconds, 1 minute, and it goes all the way along. If you can't see those, just double click and click time ruler numbers, and I recommend having those on there. Very useful for seeing how long your piece is. Okay, couple more things. As I showed you how to copy and paste a clip. If you want to duplicate a clip without Control V in, you can click and hold Alt and just drag the clip along. And if I let go, it will just keep duplicating there. I'm just going to delete all of those a second. If you want to select more than one click, I'm just going to drag and drop and make a box like this and delete all of those. If you want to move things up and down on the sequence, but you don't want them to shift left and right, if you hold shift, it'll only go up and down. It won't move left and right. That's very useful if you want to move things around on your sequence, but you don't want them to go out of sync or move left and right. Just Command Z those. A couple more things you can do. If you want to change the speed of a clip, I'm going to click R on my keyboard. That's a shortcut, and it's going to bring up the speed ramp tool. And now if I was to drag that in all this way, look, that's now going to be the speed of that clip. So you can see it says 690 there. It's going to play super fast. So I'll just show you what that looks like. So it's just speeding it up. Vice versa, if I go the other way and I can drag and elongate it if we want sort of slow-mo, and that's going to slow it down. All of these buttons that I'm using and shortcuts, they can also be found here. So if on my side here. So this is my selection tool. It's just going to allow me to click and select things inside the timeline. And here I have my track select forward tool. So it's just going to allow me to click and move entire things sort of left and right, all together like that. That's quite useful. I've got my rate stretch tool. So that was the speed that we just covered there. Slow it up, speed it down. Also, if you click Control R on the clip that you want, you can type in the exact speed. So I can type in 100%, that'll make it normal, but I could reverse it if I wanted to. And that's going to play the whole thing in the opposite way. It's going to have to render that, so I'm going to ignore that. I'm just going to make sure this is back to 100%. I'm just typing that in there. So we're back to our original. Now you've got your cut tool, your razor tool. When you first start, you probably will use this for a small period of time, but you'll realize it's very inefficient and it's not the quickest way of doing things. So if I was to select this, and click that here. If I was to click there, it's going to make a cut in my footage. So it's going to cut that clip into 2 different clips. So I can now move those separately from each other. Now there's a quicker way of doing that, and I recommend learning this quite quickly because inside of Premiere the thing you will use the most is cutting your footage. And you can do Control K, or you can change your presets and your shortcuts, which I'll go into in a minute, but I've changed mine to C. So every time I press C on the clip, it's just going to cut. If you want to delete a cut, you can click on the cut itself and click delete, and that'll bring the clip back together there, like so. So there's a few more tools here. I won't go into those too much. We will use them in the others. The other really useful one that I use quite a fair bit is the type tool. So if I want to type, I can click here, and if I click on just anywhere on my program, and I can type, just like so. Another quick easy way of getting the type tool up is to click T, and if I click T, I can now just type away like so. Okay, so that's kind of the sequence, everything you'll kind of need for the sequence for now, and the selection tools over here that we have. On your right side here, I have my audio meters, so that's just going to tell me how loud things are when they're playing. So if I'm playing, you can see over here that they're coming up and down and showing me what level everything is coming through. Up here again we have, I've also got my effect controls, so that's quite useful for manipulating individual clips. So if I click on my clip in the sequence, as I've done, and go to effect controls, all of this will come up. Got a few different things here that you can do. You can play around with the motion, so that's where the image is, so that you can move it on the left and Y axis and the ups and downs. You can zoom in, zoom out. All I'm doing is clicking and dragging these. You can also select them, type in different formats and play around. We'll come into those more into the future. You've got your opacity, as I said, so that's similar to this. In fact, if I change it here, you can see that it changes on the bar there that we said. You've got different blending modes. We'll come on to those eventually, but that just allows us to sort of overlay footage with each other and play around with things there. And now I have my effects panel here. I can add specific effects. So for example, if I was to go to the search menu, and we'll just do an easy one, we'll type in flip. I'm just going to go for a vertical flip and drag and drop that. So all I'm doing is clicking on vertical flip that I want, dragging and dropping it, just like we do with our footage when we drag it in. And that's just going to add that effect in to the clip. If you want to manipulate that effect or see where that effect is, you can go back into the effect controls and see now that in here it is added the vertical flip. I can toggle that on and off as well to see that if I want to. And then you can do specific masks, which we'll come on to later as they're a little bit more in depth. I'm going to delete that effect. All I'm going to do is click it and click delete. Okay, so that's my effect controls and my effects panel. Over here you have your Lumetri color. So you use this for, changing the exposure, the saturation, the white balance, all different things like that. Anything that you want to do visually to the colors can be done inside of there. We'll touch more on that towards the end of the course. I've got my text. I can create transcribes. I can create captions. It's a really quick way of creating subtitles and things for a piece. Again, we'll use that in the next few coming episodes. Okay, so that's a quick little run through. In the window here, you have lots of different things that will come up. I'm not going to go into every single one because it would be a really, really long video. But just know that you can open up all these different things. And I do recommend having a little play around with them. If I just open one, it'll just come up here and I can just see what these things do and have a little play with it. We will use some of them, so I'll go into each one as we go. But they're the main that's the fundamentals that you need to be able to start manipulating some clips and playing around inside of Premiere. There's one more thing I'm going to show you. We'll really go into this later on, so don't worry too much about it. But inside of here, you also have your export module, and that's for getting videos out of Premiere. And that's the export module here. So if you ever accidentally come onto this page and you're like, oh, how did I get here? How do I get back? Over here, you have your import, your edit, and your export. Most of your time would be spent in the edit. As soon as you're done, you move to the export. We'll cover all of this in the next module, but in case you get lost and stuck, a few more things. In case you press full screen, you can click escape. That's that button up there to full screen. You can open up different dashboards. This is another way to get to your workspaces that I was in, where I've saved. And then up here you have your file, your edit, your clip. Most of these we don't need to go into. There is some useful ones, and I will show you a very useful thing to get in habit of doing. This is the best habit you can pick up when editing, and that is saving your project, because Premiere Pro does like to crash. So every now and then I recommend you to just randomly save, especially if you've done a lot of work. And to do that, I have saved my preset as Control S. I think that's the standard. As you can see, it will just save the project. So that's saved now. And you can also do that by going to File, Save As, or Save. Just quickly before I finish and ramp this video to an end, I'm just going to show you how to change your keyboard shortcuts. Now, keyboard shortcuts are really useful. If you ever want to get quick and good and fast at editing, then shortcuts are going to be a complete lifesaver. So I'm going to show you how to get to those and play around with them, or learn what specific shortcuts are that are really useful. So if you go to Edit and go down to Keyboard Shortcuts here, it's going to open up your keyboard shortcuts. There's quite a lot to look at here, and it might be a little bit confusing at first, but you can see here that some of the ones that I was already explaining are already there. For example, the Type tool, if you click T, the Type tool will come up. The Mark In, so the mark in and out, if I and O, there you can see I've changed my cut, and I'm just going to show you how to change one so that you can then play around in the future with any keyboard shortcuts that you want. So for example, I'll show you how to do the cut in one, because that is a very useful one to change very quickly, because I Control K, and you'll notice you have to use both hands to do that. So as an editor, if I can use just one finger and carry on with my right hand on the cursor, that's going to be really useful and saving a lot of time, because cutting is the thing you will do the most. So cutting in here is called Add Edit. So I'm going to type in Add Edit here, and you can see I've already changed mine to C, but yours might look like this. I think the default is Control K. So it might look like that. So all I'm going to do is click that and change that to C. I'm going to delete that one, change that one to C. So now anytime I press C, I can add that cut, like I said. So that's how you change them inside of here. I recommend playing around with these. They're really useful, and they will save you a lot of time. Okay, so that's everything I'm going to cover in this episode. Hopefully that's just a really beginner's breakdown of just everything you can do inside of Premiere, and hopefully when you open it up and watch that back, it won't be too confusing. So then you can move on to the modules and get started with your editing. See you in the next episode.